Da-da-da-da-da. Welcome to Play Alchemy. Today I am in Phoenicia in New York, just outside New York in America. We've got lots of lovely bugs here visiting us. And I also have, of course, Dan Cohen, who is the author of I Carry Your Heart in My Heart, which has been such an inspirational book that I'm delighted to have Dan as one of my Constellations teachers. So tell us a bit about you, Dan, and your work.
Well, thanks, Portia. I'm really glad to have this conversation. I'm a family constellations facilitator and trainer and author for over 20 years. I started working in prisons, which was the basis of my book. And the last 10 years, I've been partnered with Emily Blayfeld doing Sing with Your Heart. And we do a version of Sing with Your Heart Constellations, which is a way of looking at what is inside of us that is problematic or troublesome, and how to release it from our body and free ourselves to be able to pursue our highest intentions and desires.
Yeah, okay. Wow, that sounds a bit woo-woo, Dan. Could you just tell us a little bit of where it comes from and then how you got into that work?
Well, grew up in New York City. I got a degree in business. I owned an engineering company for a long time, but I was also a peace activist. All through the 80s and 90s, I worked in urban communities in the United States. I traveled to Germany as a Jewish peacemaker. I traveled to Palestine and Israel as a Jewish peacemaker. I lived in both places for a time and worked on a lot of different projects and organizations around violence prevention and conflict resolution. And after about 20 years of that, I realized that there was a missing tool, and I did not know what it was. And I went looking for it. I sold my engineering company, had a little money in my pocket. I didn't have to get a job right away. And I went looking for the missing tool in the Peacemaker's Toolkit. And I found Family Constellations coming out of Germany. And I saw what it was, and I thought, oh, this is the missing tool. This is what I've been looking for.
Yeah, and you did some training with Bert Hellinger as
I
a
did.
teacher as well.
Right. I trained, Susie Tucker had a training program in New York City with Bert Hellinger and other
Yeah,
German
sure.
trainers. And I did that training and additional training. And then 2003, I started working as a facilitator.
Sure. And so why are we talking about this thing called family constellations, also known as systemic constellations? So for me personally, the work I've been doing at the School of Play before 2019 was really predominantly about play science and looking what was out there, and looking at psychology and also coaching tools. But I always found that, even having a very restorative, mindful coloring session wasn't enough most times for people to shift their blocks, and enable the kind of transformational change I knew was possible in human beings. So when I came across Dan's work and the kind of work he did in prisons, and working with folks and really overcoming lifelong challenges, isn't it, to create that transformative shift, I think that's when Play Alchemy was born. Can you tell us a little bit about the work you did in prisons and concretely with the constellations?
Well, I worked with a group of lifers, men who had been convicted usually of first degree murder. Most of them had been in for long term. They were older now. They had gone in their teens and 20s, and now they were in their 50s and 60s. And they had really focused on spiritual practice, emotional intelligence, and developed
Yeah.
themselves spiritually. And working with constellations allowed us to work with, in constellations, we call the victim perpetrator bond, and what the enduring relationship is between these men and what they had harmed, the people they had killed, and the damage they did, and all in the interest of healing and in making them more peaceful people, and helping the prison community become more peaceful
Yeah.
with them as elders.
And can you talk a little bit about the dynamics of how constellations work? Maybe you can cite an example. Yeah, just to illustrate that.
Well, I worked with one of the first men that I worked with said that he had gone in when he was 22 or 23. He was a heroin addict, and he had two children with two women, both the same age, maybe 3 or 4 years old. And he was a heroin addict. He was high one night, and he got involved in a conflict, and he ended up killing somebody and was arrested and convicted. And after he was sentenced, independently, both the women came to him with their daughters and said, take a good look at her, you'll never see her again. And he never had. And this was now 30 years later.
Wow.
And he said that he's really settled himself into that environment and into his own life. But anytime he thinks of his daughters, it just shatters his heart. He just misses them so much. And he wanted to know if there was anything I could do. And I said, we'll just take a look at it. So we did a constellation. Basically, I had women who came in as volunteers with me. I had 2 that day. So
Just normal civilians from New York City.
yeah, this was Massachusetts, but
Massachusetts,
just people who kind of in the prison volunteer community or family constellation community. They knew about what I was doing. They were interested in coming in and experiencing that.
Yeah.
So I set up a woman as a representative for the mother. Just kind of combined the 2 mothers into one and the 2 daughters into one.
Yeah.
And a representative for the mother, a representative for the daughter, and I just had the man stand, and the representatives found their places. And the mother moved all the way across the room with her daughter.
Yeah.
She was kind of standing in front of the daughter, blocking her view of her father,
Yeah.
and looking away from him. And we stood that way for quite a while. And then at one point, the woman representing the daughter just took a quick glance at the man, her father. And once she saw him, she couldn't take her eyes off of him.
Yeah.
And so they just stared at each other for a while. And then I said, you can move. And the daughter just went towards him. And the mother kind of relented. She tried to interfere with it, but didn't. And the 2 of them finally came together. And at the end, I said, we can't really follow up with this, but you can see that she's still connected to you in her heart, even though you have no relationship. But I came back a few months later, and he had a big smile on his face, and he said he'd gotten a letter from his daughter. He hadn't heard from her.
Wow, for 30 years.
For 30
And
years.
he assumed that they would be forever estranged
Right.
as well. So how does it actually work? Because is it role play, and where is this information coming from that these strangers can tune into someone else's system in this way?
Well, it's what's called representation.
Yeah.
We do tuning in, we do representation. It's a capacity in the human body that everybody has. We are actually, it's all woo. It sounds woo. The whole thing is woo. When you get down to it, it's there's no way to really, the work that I'm doing can't be, it all is going to fit under that umbrella. But, we have this psychic capacity. The human body is designed to interact with the greater consciousness of the universe, which is where the information field that quantum science has identified, the realm of potentiality, and our bodies are in the realm of actuality, and our bodies are able to communicate, and that realm communicates with us. So we're always just living and breathing, transmitting between our own consciousness and the greater consciousness. And when we represent and tune in, we can connect. And so there's some capacity, it would seem from this story, that the representative was able to psychically connect with the daughter. And this movement that occurred in the prison in some way reached her.
Yeah.
And activated in her desire to find her father. And she reached out, and a little while after that, she came for a visit. She had children of her own. She brought her children, and they established a real relationship.
Wow. It all sounds very mystical and magical, but as
It
Dan
is.
says, this is what the quantum physics field is starting to show us, that it's catching up with what many generations have done in order to tap into their intuition. It's what's called the knowing field, and it's how our ancestors knew where to look out for tigers and where to look out for prey that they can then take home to feed their family, isn't it?
Well, this is alchemy.
Yeah.
This is what alchemy is. Alchemy is it's transformational, and it is the ability that humans have to be in relationship with non-physical consciousness, with ancestral consciousness, spirit consciousness, earth consciousness, that in chemistry it's considered impossible. But alchemy is an old science. It's much older than chemistry. It exists in all parts of the world, in all older scientific traditions, and it's known that everything that's alive is connected with everything else, and there are pathways of communication and information, and we can use them in our own life for everyday situations and create transformation. What I call turning your family shit into compost.
Right. And of course, with family constellations, there are now different contexts in which you can use them. So, for example, in organizations, those are systems that you can then tune into and sense into why, maybe the CEO always ends up leaving early. And it's because, it's an ejector seat kind of situation where whoever comes in always ends up having to leave early, and there's something in the system that if we were able to inquire, talk, engage with it, it would tell us what is happening. Yeah. So the next thing I want to look at really is, Dan, how you sense play fits into all of this, because that's really what drew me to your work, because you're so playful and open-minded and responsible and resourceful and all of those good things. Where do you think play and constellations and alchemy?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I love to play. I'm a very playful person. I've always been playful. Uh, Constellations, we go into the heaviness of a situation, but we are
Yeah.
aiming for the lightness.
Yeah.
We are lifting the weight of the generations off of our shoulders, releasing it out of our bodies, and brings us into a more joyful state,
Yeah.
a more engaged state. And play is it's a creative process. It's kind of unbounded by structures and rules. Where they exist in a certain sense, but games and playfulness
Yeah.
is an expression of our own creativity, and it's where fun comes from, I
Yeah,
find.
absolutely. And so I have other teachers, of course, that I study with, and somebody's work called Yak Panksepp, he coined the term effective neuroscience. He's known as the rat tickler because he discovered that, rats would emit a higher pitched sound when they were delighted from being tickled. And his work is really mapping the different emotional circuits in the brain to the extent that, there are things like the seeking circuit, the rage circuit, the grief circuit. And what they noticed was that, and this is also in tandem with Sarah Payton's great work on resonant healing, is that in order to feel joy through play, you have to acknowledge and process that grief in order to, like you say in alchemical terms, transmute it into joy, because otherwise the body and the mind is unable to process that joy, isn't it?
Right. I mean, I find a lot of times in my work, working in the solar plexus, which is a seat of joy in the
Yeah.
body and a chakra system.
Yeah.
But it's also the polarity of the joy is anger. And anger is an expression of rage. When you
Yes,
kind of
of
get
course.
underneath the anger, there's
Yeah.
rage and grief. I don't mean rage, actually grief.
Yeah.
And so when you can release the grief
Yes.
from the body, release the anger,
Yeah.
then you're able to reinvigorate the joy, which is part of our natural birthright to
Yeah.
play, to laugh, to be creative. And, the adults are so serious.
Yeah. Well, the world seems like a very serious
It does
place.
seem very serious.
And of course, it's even too risky oftentimes to take risks and have risky play, because we are so focused on status, doing work, and that work is how we have a place in the world. So I guess the last question is, how would people get into constellations if they were interested more to find out?
Well, I mean, there's constellation facilitators wherever you are. I teach a class, international class online.
Yeah.
I offer a couple of times a year. You could go to seeingwithyourheart.com.
Yeah.
My partner Emily and I have our offerings. They can go to Play Alchemy,
Yeah.
see what offerings you have,
Absolutely.
Portia. And if they want to do something local in their town, they can, do a search for that.
Yeah.
But there's a whole host of interesting processes and teachers and trainers, and what sings to you.
Yeah.
I would recommend.
And I'd also recommend the Turkish Netflix series called Another Self for those of you who are interested to find out more. And like Dan says, there's seeingwithyourheart.com, and then, of course, theschoolofplay.com if you want to find out more. Thank you so much, Dan, for your
Yeah,
time.
it's been great, Portia.
And I just want to really acknowledge how amazing it is, and massive difference it makes to have a playful teacher who's so open to this work. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm delighted, Portia. I love you, and I love
Oh.
what you're doing and what you're bringing.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Bye, everyone.
Bye.